It says that we're streaming now live.
Should be good to go. You're good, Dominic.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Welcome everybody to the Newington Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for May 11th, 2022. If everybody could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if we could do the, Maureen, are you there? If you could do the roll call.
I am.
please.
Okay. Chairman Payne,
Here,
Commissioner Claffey,
he's out. He called me. He's excused. He had a work engagement.
okay. Commissioner Haggerty,
Here.
Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Linares,
Here.
Commissioner Trister, Commissioner Woods,
Here.
Commissioner Braverman, Commissioner Gill,
Here.
Commissioner Droz.
Here. Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going
You're
to sit Commissioner Drodes for Commissioner Claffey, and I'm going to sit Commissioner Gill for Commissioner Trister. And next thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I think the only difference, if I'm not mistaken, is we don't have the 824 in front of us. I don't think council sent it to us.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The John Patterson parking lot extension was not ended up referred last night, so that will be pushed out to your next agenda, please.
Okay, very good. And we are at the public participation part of our meeting. Within Zoom application, you could raise your hand if you'd like to participate during public participation. If calling into Zoom meeting by telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand to be recognized. Use *6 when recognized to speak by telephone. State your name and address for the record if you'd like. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak?
Yes, Tucker, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, my name's, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name's Tucker Sauls. I work for Transport Hartford on the Transit-Oriented Development Project. I am not from Newington, but I do run events in Newington. My job is to hold walk audits and other community events to inform stakeholders about TODs and to get them involved in the way the town develops. The point of these events, if you guys remember, if you gentlemen remember when I ran this last time, it was at the Newington Junction Station. What we try to do is increase the walkability and accessibility of neighborhoods, especially around transit. We feel that these kind of developments really increase the wealth of a town and the health of the town. This is because large parking lots and commercial properties are denser, and they can also be co-located with housing and require less maintenance per acre within the realm of your zoning laws, right? So I am letting myself be known to the public of Newington, and is it okay for me to put some information or some contact information in the chat? It doesn't look like that I have the ability to do that now, but if anyone who's interested in transit-oriented development or the walkability and accessibility of your community wants to reach out to me, I'd love to run another walk audit in Newington. I'm Tucker Sauls, and my number is 860-944-5113. If any of you have any questions about transit-oriented development, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak during public participation?
No one else has their hand raised right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, if there's nobody else and there's no objection, we'll move on to
Hold
our.
on, somebody just raised their hand. Elaine, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, I just turned on. Is this public participation regarding the Verano?
No, it's not,
Application?
not yet, Elaine.
Okay, I apologize.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay, public participation on.
So
any-
that appears to be it, Mr. Chairman.
Oh. Okay, very good. We will move on to zoning enforcement officer's report. We have a report from the zoning officer. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Eric?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, Eric, is Express Kitchen, is that a repeat offender? I feel like I've seen that a couple times and I could be with the waiver signs.
This is really the first on my watch,
Sure,
maybe a couple years ago.
All right.
I had a conversation with the manager there just the other day, and he did take that stuff down.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Eric, do you have anything that you'd like to report to us?
No, I mean, I was in class for a couple weeks, so it might not be as robust this month as other months, but keeping busy between light and zoning and planning and wetlands.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. And if
Mr.
there's-
Chair,
Yes, Renata.
if I may report on Eric's behalf. So Eric spent this past week and before that, a couple of weeks ago, another week in Casio training. So I had asked him to put together a couple of pointers of what resonated with him from the training and do that for you at either, depending on the load on the agenda, either give you a little briefing of what were the main points of what he learned for you either next time or the meeting after that for both you as well as the Conservation Commission. So this will be a little bit of a staff run training or staff run informational kind of thing for the commissioners.
Very good. Sounds good. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for either Renata or Eric? Hearing none, if there's no objection, I'm going to move on to the remarks by commissioners. Any remarks by commissioners? Hearing none, I'm going to ask the Commissioner Havens if you could read the procedures for a public hearing.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Order of proceedings of public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by chairperson. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or commissioner designated by the chairperson to act in their stead. C, presentation by applicant. D, town planner report on the application. Eric, could you scroll? I don't have this one.
Yeah.
E, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. F, persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. Rebuttal by the applicant, limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairperson whether the time limitations should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any such variance by a majority vote.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Our first public hearing is petition 19-22. It's a zoning regulations amendment, section 6.13 and section 9.1 pertaining to accessory apartments and to opt out of accessory apartments provisions of the PA 21-29 SB 6107. Applicant is Newington Town Planning and Zoning. Contact is Renata. So everybody's got this from in our packet. I'll go right to Renata for a report.
You're muted, Renata.
So good evening. So the first document that I will ask Eric to display will be the copy of my memo that was sent to the commission. And just to kind of brief everybody again about this, but also to inform the public. Last year, the state legislature passed an act number 21, Public Act number 2129, which included a number of changes to the Zoning Enabling Act. And one of the changes in that act was that it included provisions under new section 6 that essentially mandated that each town's zoning regulations would have to allow accessory apartments as of right, subject to issuance of zoning permits, unless towns opt out of these provisions. And there is a number of provisions in this public act, which I will display to you in a minute, that talk about how that has to be done by the towns, if the towns do not opt out of these provisions. Now, as I said in my memo, town of Newington already has zoning regulations which regulate accessory apartments, which means we allow them. We allow them by special permit. We allow them in our R20 and R12 zoning districts. I have some maps that I will show later on in the presentation that kind of display where in the town those zoning districts are. And then we have a number of local zoning provisions that do not comply with this public act right now. Most importantly, or most significant provisions that are not compliant, that are kind of out of step between how state regulates it and how we regulate it, is that we require special permits. State says you can't do that. We also require certain doors. We require the door connections inside units. We regulate certain ways that there are outside doors and where these outside doors can be. That's also not allowed. We regulate minimum floor area, which is also not allowed. And then we regulate time limits and require that these special permits are renewed, which is, all these things are out of compliance with the Public Act. So I brought this up to the commission on several instances. We kind of talked about this, and we discussed that if we do not fix this, we have this year to correct this. If we do not, if we leave things as they are, if we do nothing right now, the state statutes will supersede our local zoning regulations, which means that come next year, we will be required to essentially sign zoning permits and ignore our own regulations because state statutes supersede the local zoning regs. So, that's not ideal. And because of that, we are better off than fixing our regulations to either match the state statutes, if that's what we want. I have a sense that that's probably not where we want to go with this regulation. So we then can fix our regulation to how we want it to be and opt out of the provisions of the state statutes, which we must do if we don't want to comply with the state statutes. So those are our overall options. Now, in order for the community to opt out of this process, Eric, can you scroll on the second page of my memo, please? In order for the community to opt out of this process, there is a two-step process. First, the Planning Commission has to hold a public hearing, which is what you're doing right now. So this public hearing counts. And I will show you that section 6 of the Public Act, and we'll talk about that so you will understand clearly what are the provisions that we're talking about opting out of. The commission will have to make a vote, and that vote has to be a supermajority vote, a 2/3 commission vote in affirmative to approve opt-out. And then when you do that, you need to state on the record the reasons that you would justify an opt-out. Then we, the staff, need to do a couple of things, publish a decision notice. And after all that, everything has to go to the town council, which essentially needs to do pretty much the same type of steps. And the law says they have to also do a 2/3 vote, but I would assume that they will also want to hold a hearing on this as well. So it's probably going to be a similar kind of process. So it's a 2-step process. I would imagine it's going to be a two hearings. The language, if we decide to change the language of our zoning regulations of how we regulate our accessory apartments, which in your packet, I included some proposed changes for that. And I will recommend that we definitely consider changing how we regulate accessory apartments, because our regulations are out of date. They do not make sense in many ways, and they could definitely use some correcting, some, making better. We don't have to do both things together. We can consider opt-out separate and language adoption separate. So can you, Eric, display the public act now? It is also in that folder.
Yep.
So let me then move on to that.
There you go.
All right, and can you move down to page 13? Okay, a little bit more. Okay, so hold on. So as you can see, it starts by saying the section number 6, any zoning regulations as amended shall designate locations or zoning district in which accessory apartments are allowed, provided at least one accessory apartment shall be allowed as of right on each lot that contains a single-family dwelling, and no such accessory apartment shall be required to be an affordable accessory apartment. Allow accessory apartments to be attached or located within the proposed or existing principal dwelling, or detached from the proposed or existing principal dwelling and located on the same lot as such dwelling. Our regulations, and I will show you our current regulations shortly, but we require special permits and we only allow attached. We do not currently allow detached units. The state statutes say that the regulations shall set a maximum net floor area for an accessory apartment unit. And then they go into like mathematics of how much that shall be. That regulation shall require setbacks, lot size, and building frontage that can be less than or equal to what is required for first-time dwelling. So essentially, they're saying we cannot require larger setbacks for accessory units than we do for like a normal, primary dwellings. Provide height, landscaping, or architectural design that standards that are higher than those for a regular house. The regulations will be prohibited. Regulations cannot require a passageway between any accessory apartments and principal dwellings. So these doors between, a house and an attached unit, we cannot require that in regulations. The regulations cannot require an exterior door by what this code says. They cannot seek more than a parking space. They can't regulate these familiar marital or employment relationships. So essentially, some towns have language that says in-law apartment, and that's not allowed. That's not case with us, but for some towns that's an issue now. Minimum age of occupants, so this cannot be restricted to senior citizens or young people or something. Go ahead, Eric, scroll down a little bit. So this is about utilities and connection to those. The apartments must still meet building code and the other codes. They did not take that away from anything, but the zoning does not regulate building and health codes. So what this essentially says is you can't be requiring through zoning things that are otherwise regulated by building code. So you can't be setting minimum floor area because that's a building code issue. That's what these things are talking about. You have to approve it within a certain amount of days. Go ahead, Eric. And we can't condition approvals on correction of non-conforming use. We cannot require an installation of fire sprinklers because, again, normally the fire department does not regulate single-family homes anyways. Go ahead. We can't require an installation of a separate utility connection. And if we do not adopt new regulations or amend our existing regulations or opt out by January 1 of 2023, this becomes law and our regulations are superseded. So this is a general talk about what happens with regards to the opt-out. Now, Eric, if you can show real quick our current regulations, please. So in our accessory apartment regulations, you can see that the owner of the property shall reside on the property throughout the duration of the permit. That's actually okay. I carried that over in my proposal. The accessory apartment shall be limited to maximum occupancy of 2 persons. That's not allowed. We cannot do that under the Public Act, nor do I think that that's actually smart, nor do I believe that that's enforceable. Because frankly, how are we zoning officers to go and count people in people's houses in the middle of the night? That's really practically not enforceable. The building shall be determined to be capable of being added on in safe manner. An applicant for an accessory apartment shall have the zoning survey. We kept some elements of this in my proposed regulations. An accessory apartment shall contain at least 500 square feet. In my proposed text, eliminated this because that's not allowed. And I don't necessarily think that that's needed. Again, if it meets building code, it doesn't matter the smallness of it. The smallness isn't going to be an issue. I think we probably should focus on how big these units can be. There is some language here about basements, garages. I don't even remember what I did with that. We'll see when we turn into my proposed apartment. There is language here about the outside access and internal doorway. I probably eliminated all the language talking about internal doorways. In my opinion, talking about any internal connections implies this familiar connection, because if you have internal doorway, you are actually regulating who lives next door, because that means it's like an in-law apartment or an apartment that's set for a family member. I don't know that that's necessary. If we're talking about exterior doors, we may want to look into where those exterior doors are located, so that perhaps you don't have two front doors facing the street. If that is offensive to the commission, if that gives an appearance of overdeveloped, overpopulated home. There is some talk here about bedrooms and baths and kitchen and all that. I think some of that stuff stayed, some of that stuff I cleaned up. Parking, our parking regulations are good. I left them as is. I didn't really change anything. I eliminated this stuff about the affidavit certifying. Well, no, I actually kept the ownership certification, but I eliminated anything that was about certifying the special permit and having to like renew the special permit. So if you can show my proposed regulation amendment. So here, I'm going to actually show you a couple of maps too. So what I was thinking is we could allow, as of right, in R20 and R12 zone, an attached accessory apartment. And then I included also, as of right, detached apartments on lots that are larger than 40,000 square feet. And let me share my screen here. This map. All right, can you see my map now? Okay. So this is the map that was prepared for me by our GIS person, and it shows all the parcels that are larger than 40,000 square feet. That's almost an acre. On an acre lot, I mean, a lot of these properties are, they're going to be schools. They're going to be, you know, occupied by something. Some are easements, some are industrial, but some are large enough and could actually accommodate more than just a house, as long as that detached unit is located in a rear or side yard, as long as it's not like in the front. You can allow them either, I also created a map that shows 20,000 square feet. And I wanted to do this, and I premised my presentation to the commission on this with, you know, I'm going to offer you a couple of ideas, and I want you to think of this because you really have some options here. With the attached units, with the detached units, and with the size of lots, you can regulate this because we might consider opting out. If we opt out, then we will have special permits in place. If we're using special permits already, then we might consider allowing detached units, at least by special permit on certain sizes. We should probably allow attached by special permits on smaller lots too. And we have options here. So we can regulate by size of the lot, by attached, by detached, but we should allow all these developments in some fashion. And on larger lots, attached units should be allowed as of right. On larger lots, I believe even detached units should be allowed as of right, just because the housing need is such a great need. But it is going to be a community conversation again and a community decision. Can I zoom into any of this area? Would you like to look at this map at all anymore? Like green is parcels that are greater than 20,000 but smaller than 40. Purple are all the parcels that are larger than 40.
And those are, just to be clear, those are all just residentially zoned parcels, right, Renata?
Yes, those are all like R12 and R20. So like this area here looks pretty dense if we go to like parcels that are greater than 20,000 square feet. And we allow, we could see some development, some increase in density in these kind of areas. But if we keep it for like a detached units to 40,000 square feet, like we probably won't see much. And can you display my text again, Eric?
I can, but I'll have to close your map. So is that okay?
Yeah, stop sharing. Yeah,
That's fine.
stop sharing. We can go back if commission is interested. So anyways, my kind of like first original draft was we allow one attached accessory apartment as of right, one detached accessory apartment as of right on parcels that are larger than 40, one detached accessory apartment by special permit on parcels that are less than 40. and then that kind of talks about density. I eliminated the number of occupants, but I would like to have a provision that requires that at least one of the occupants of either accessory unit or a primary dwelling is an owner of the property. I want an owner to live where we have these. No short-term rentals. We still have to comply with all the, building, health, fire code. The accessory apartments can only be located on the side or rear of single-family dwelling, except that on the corner lot, the commission may, by special permit, allow an alternate location. We are requiring certain things for applications, which is normal. The accessory apartments shall not exceed 1,000 square feet of gross livable area. I think these are intended to be an accessory apartments. I really don't want second house on the lot. This should not be what this regulation is about. Outside access to an accessory apartment shall not face public street. This is in our current regulation. I don't know if this is something that commission will feel strongly about. It is more appearance of, density than anything. I personally don't feel very strongly about 613.9, but it is for you to consider and see how you feel about it. And the bedrooms and equipped with bath and kitchen, this is out of our current regulations. Against my personal feelings, I'm not really all that into calculating how many bedrooms and bathrooms and all that stuff but it's in our current regs. I just carried it over. And then the 613.12 is for the attached accessory apartments that the architectural style of a single family house doesn't change so much, so that it doesn't look like, a completely now different house. I recommend, so this is my presentation essentially. I recommend that you discuss all this. I will recommend that you don't act on the regulation amendment. I think the regulation amendment, the text of this regulation probably warrants a little bit of time digestion. There are some options here to think about. The opt-out itself, you may feel any kind of way about that. Like that is pretty straightforward to me. So if you want to act on that, you may, if you want to. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. And then I'm going to open this to questions.
Okay, very good. Renata, thank you very much for that presentation. I'll open up to the other commissioners. Do you have any commissioners have any questions for Renata?
Mr. Haggerty has his hand raised.
Go ahead.
Renata, tell me again your reasoning for not being concerned with minimum square footage.
It's a building permit issue. I don't think that anybody is going to build a 300 square feet apartment. And if they do, that's good for them. You know, tiny homes are a thing too.
Fair enough. Okay.
You know,
are these accessory apartments, are they separate utilities or they're off the main dwelling, whatever that is? Is that correct?
so we're not allowed to require separate utilities. That's all that it says. We're not allowed to require that they have separate utilities. The property owner can, if they want, provide together utilities or separate utilities. We just can't require the separate utilities.
Okay.
By regulation.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions for Renata? Commissioner Gill.
Yes, Renata, the parking spaces, at page 176, if we could just pull that down. Did that say per dwelling? And would that mean that if you had a non-attached, that you would have the possibility of 6 parking spaces?
No, what this reads is that you will have no more than 3 parking spaces for the use of the principal dwelling and the accessory apartment, unless otherwise approved by the commission. So you can have total of 3 parking spaces, no more than that.
Okay, and that's your request there, correct? That's not the, and then as far as,
This is current. This is in our current regulation as well. This is carryover.
okay. And, you know, we're flopping back and forth here as far as opting out, and I can't see why or how we could not opt out of this. I mean, there's so many things.
In my regulation, the way I propose this regulation amendment, it includes an opt-out. It's like opt-out is built in it. Every mention of special permit in this proposed amendment means that we have to opt out.
Anything else, Commissioner Gill?
Yeah, well, the other question is as far as utilities again. You know, if we have a detached building, where are we going to get the utilities from?
I believe that would be up to the property owner to get that done.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Drones.
Renata, 2 quick questions, if you don't mind. One, what was your suggestion? You were differentiating between 20,000 square feet and 40,000 square feet. What was that pertaining to? I wasn't following you there.
So we right now only allow attached accessory units. accessory apartments, subject to special permit. We should consider how to allow both attached and, in my opinion at least, attached and detached units, because sometimes you can have a unit that's on top of the garage. Sometimes you can have a unit that is on a large, like 1.5 acre lot that can be like tucked back on one of those like long skinny lots that's in the back, and it really doesn't bother anybody. So depending on the lot size and how we regulate, I think we should set by lot size how we regulate. So one example that I included in this was that we allow, as of right, attached units across board, no, regardless of the size of the lot. And we allow detached units as a special permit up to 1 acre, almost 1 acre lot, 40,000 square feet. And if the lot is less than 1 acre or more than 1 acre, then it's allowed as a right. If it's less than 1 acre, then it requires special permit. The
Okay,
commission may not be comfortable with that. The commission may say, that's too much, that's too built up. So how about we take 20,000 square feet and say an attached unit is okay only as of right above 20,000 square feet. For a lot that's smaller than that, it's either not permitted at all or permitted subject to special permit. So those are kind of like a threshold, I think, limits that we can use to regulate how we allow these.
Gotcha. Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Only other question was, if the choice is to opt out, supermajority vote, and if we vote to opt out, we need to voice the reasons for opting out. I got that. What other ramifications are there by choosing to opt out?
I don't know. That I do not know. You know, when this bill first passed, there was a lot of, you know, talk how if you opt out, you will be a bad town. A lot of towns already opted out. So I don't know. I think if we fix our regulations so that they work for us, it doesn't matter that we opted out. I don't know what ramifications are. The best ramification is we have a good regulation for us.
So it's not like the state's going to go and hammer us with something else because we opted out on this.
They might, but I don't know of anything that's coming up like that.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got. I appreciate it. Thanks, Renata.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Woods?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Renata, I'm struggling with the opt-out. And let's say we adopted this plan as is. Does this satisfy the state? I'm thinking, listening to you talk for the last 5 minutes, it does not. Anywhere I believe you said in here where there is a special permit, we would be in violation of the new state statute. Is that correct?
We're not in violation. If we opt out, we are not in violation of state statute.
So if we opt out, then that act does not pertain to us.
Exactly.
Okay.
As long as we adopt our own.
We have to
regulations.
adopt our own. And even though they don't, I guess.
We don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. We just need to opt out of the state regulation. We already have our own regulation. State effectively doesn't care what we do. We either have to regulate accessory apartments the way they say we have to, or we have to opt out of their regulations.
So Commissioner Woods is up.
Yeah, I guess I'm leaning towards Commissioner Gill. I mean, I think you've got some great changes here. I just don't know that it's going to work and satisfy the state. So I'm thinking that our only option is to opt out. I mean, I'm not opposed to a lot of these. Some of them probably don't make sense, but some of them do. I mean, I think it was clear, if you really read our regs here, that these were meant to be, in-law apartments, right? A
In-law,
family member
yeah.
was meant to move in, right? So that's clearly what the board or commission was trying to do back then. And obviously the state doesn't want that anymore. I could see somebody turning a 2-car garage into in an apartment. So utilities wouldn't be an issue, but then parking now maybe becomes an issue. This is, I don't know, it's very confusing. I like what you did. And I think we can play with this and adopt something very similar to update our current regulations where we are definitely off the mark, but I don't know, I'm still leaning more towards opting out.
Okay,
That's
thank you,
it, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, without any objection, we'll go to the public. Anybody wishing to speak? Either in favor of this up or in opposition? Anybody wish to speak on this from the public? Gail?
Yes, I'm not speaking in favor or against. I just, I guess like some of the commissioners here, I'm just a little confused, and I was doing some research on some of these in other states and whatever, and I just have some questions on whether they need to be included if we do write our own regulations or create our own regulations or not. And one of the things I just am a little bit concerned about is the density, because particularly, like, I live in the north end of Newington, the lots are very, very small. And I was just wondering why we are not, or whether there should be consideration for a minimum lot size. I know you say detached accessory apartment allowed on a lot less than 40,000 square feet, but there's no minimum. That a lot has to be a minimum of a certain number of square feet to add an ADU. I'm just thinking if that might be something to consider. Secondly, again, about the utilities, I guess I'm more concerned about if we're going to start building standalone units, that does mean sewers as well. And that's may or may not be problematic. I'm not sure. Third, in terms of the parking, I mean, quite frankly, now we have an awful lot of on-street parking because a lot of single-family homes, no matter what size they are, what size their lots, have more than 3 vehicles. And Newington has an awful lot of on-street parking now. So when you're talking about no more than 3 parking spaces for the principal dwelling and the accessory, are you going to be requiring that off-street parking for this accessory dwelling unit be a requirement or not? I mean, I think maybe some consideration should be made of that. Driveways to the back of a lot. If parking is, again, I'm just concerned that right now, it seems like many people are complaining they don't have enough parking and they're parking on the street. If we add accessory dwellings, what's that going to do to the parking? I think that has to be looked at a little bit more. Now, what about if these lots, no matter what the size of it, can there be other structures in the yard? What if, there's a big shed already, or if there's a big garage already, or if there's an in-ground pool or a standalone pool or a chicken coop or whatever? Is that going to be taken into consideration to allow another structure such as an ADU? And I mean, how many structures can be allowed on a lot? Just curious about that. And also, I don't understand by special permit or by right, but at some of these lots, if the unit is going to be big enough, or if there's going to be parking, a paved parking lot or whatever, will this still be subject to review by wetlands, inlands, and wetlands commission in terms of if it's within 100-foot buffer of the wetlands and the setbacks. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. I think that I believe, and Renata or Eric can
Mr.
correct
Chair,
if
yeah,
I'm wrong.
I can answer a bunch of that. So
Okay, go right
first
ahead,
of all, wetlands is independent. If there is any kind of proposed activity within the
Right.
regulated area, wetlands is reviewing that, whether it's a shed or a house or an accessory dwelling unit or anything. So yes, they would have to review for that. We currently do not regulate number of structures on residential lots. So, you know, hypothetically speaking, somebody could have 7 sheds, you know, so we do say in this regulation, you are allowed to have 1 accessory apartment, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that you perhaps can have 7 sheds, 3 barns, and I don't know what else, 3 pools or something, right? That's a different problem and different topic to be addressed in a different section of the regulation. With regards to parking, this particular regulation says unless otherwise approved by the commission. So I think the idea with the parking is to not burden a building out of accessory dwelling units or accessory apartments by over requiring parking. Sometimes some towns require, you know, 3 parking spaces for a 500 or 700 square foot accessory dwelling unit that can accommodate perhaps 1 person. And that is why I think this regulation is good. We can, but this is a first draft, really, truly for community to see and to start a conversation. This was not presented for adoption tonight. So this is something that I am putting forward so that we can start looking into, so that people can read and then give me a feedback and some communication back on this. This was not shown too long to anybody to you know, look, and it affects a great area of the town. These are 2 large zoning districts. So, you know, I did not intend to have this before the commission and have this adopted tonight. So parking definitely can be discussed. The special permit versus allowed as of right literally means that if something is allowed as of right, somebody comes to Eric, and if that application meets our zoning regulation, Eric has to sign. There is no going to the commission. There is no discretionary standards. There is no discussion or considerations that are not written in the zoning regulations. So those are the distinctions. And then with regards to the sizes of lots, again, I included what I included as a start of the conversation. But I included that with these maps to provide some visual for the commission to show. So these are parcels that are 40,000 square feet. These are parcels that are 20,000 square feet. So now we can truly consider, okay, if something that is smaller than 20,000 square feet should not have anything added to, perhaps that's something that the commission would like. So you can tell me that. So that's all on the table for conversation and consideration going forward. Did I miss anything, Gail?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Renata. Is there anybody else from the public wishing to speak?
I don't see anyone with their hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think we should leave this public hearing open. I'm not sure how the other commissioners feel, but I think I'd like to see if we could get some more involvement from the public. And we have plenty of time. If there's no objection, I'd like to make a motion to leave this public hearing open.
Second.
Second.
Motion, motion made by,
I'll make a motion to leave it open.
thank you, Commissioner, and seconded by
Haggerty.
Haggerty. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Anyone opposed? Motion carries to leave petition 19-22 open. Our next public hearing is petition 23-22. And if Commissioner Linares could read that, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Petition 23-22, special permit, section 6.16. To allow a hybrid retail location for adult use cannabis sales at 2903 Berlin Turnpike. Applicant Verano, owner GLM 1867 Realty LLC, Newington Realty Inc. Contact Rain Theobald.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes. Good evening, commissioners, Madam Planner. My name is Reno Parisi. I am Executive Vice President of Verano's North Region, and I am here tonight on behalf of this application. I am joined by Mark Kaczynski, our Security Director, and Rain Theobald, our associate, who helped in preparation of the application. So I do have just a little background. Like I said, I'm here tonight on behalf of the application for a special permit for a hybrid retail to be located at 2903 on Berlin Turnpike. But before I dive in, I want to thank the town planning staff for patiently answering our questions and for guiding us in this process. We did put a lot of effort and time into the application. We wanted to make sure we got it right. And I want to say that while Verano is a national company that employs 4,000 employees in 18 states, all of our state operations are locally managed and operated. I personally joined Verano in December of 2021 through a merger of CT Pharma, a company that I co-founded and operated since 2014. Verano merged with CT Pharma and retained all of the management to stay on board to operate the company, and we currently operate over 120 employees. We do that here in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. Verano also acquired 2 Connecticut dispensaries in 2021, Willowbrook Wellness in Meriden and Caring Nature in Waterbury. Both of those sites are managed and operated locally, and we employ over 30 employees at those locations. I can say that in my 8 years as a cannabis company operator, first in Portland and now in Rocky Hill, I am pleased to report that we have maintained strong ties to the community. We expect the same relationship with the town of Newington. We are generous and oftentimes anonymous contributor to host community fundraising events. We support the local police and fire departments. We invite them to visit our facilities and meet our staff and tour our sites. We're an open book. We met with Sergeant Ryan Dean of the Newington Police Department to establish a line of communication, and it is our intention to be a great corporate citizen to the town of Newington. So without further ado, I do have a slide presentation, just a quick overview of what we're proposing for the location and the work that we've done to support that that it is a good location for the business and we won't interrupt business or traffic there. So may I share my screen?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Bear with me.
Yep.
Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is just a little something about our company. We are in 18 states, all locally managed and operated, and the company continues to grow. We're a local company on a national scale is really what Verano is. That didn't work out. Usually I have someone here who helps me with this. Okay, thank you. Okay, so like I said, we're making an application for 2903 Berlin Turnpike for a hybrid retail cannabis facility. What's important to emphasize that there will be no changes to the existing building, the parking, or the surrounding areas. There will be no advertising for cannabis, and certainly no cannabis use will be permitted on the property. This is all in compliance with state regulations. Connecticut has the most official cannabis program in the country. And we're a serious operator within that program. Our operations are strictly managed when a patient or a customer enters the facility. They're checked in and they're checked out. They're tracked throughout the entire process. Medical patients they meet with a pharmacist who will consult with them and recommend products and dosing. Only pharmacist technicians can interact with patients. There is a mandatory 3 technician to 1 pharmacist ratio that we will maintain. On the medical side of the business, on the adult use side of the business, that will be lay people and won't be pharmacists. But a pharmacy manager will oversee the site and will be on site at all times. Strict age verification, 21 and over, with required by verification of an ID or credential, state a credential. You're not allowed to access the facility unless we can verify your age, no exceptions. There will also be a point of sale tracking system. Essentially, every single product that's manufactured within the Connecticut cannabis program is tracked by the state of Connecticut's Department of Consumer Protection. Basically a serialization of every single product that's produced, and we close the loop from seed to grave through the seed to sale tracking point of sale system that'll be in use at the site. This is just an overview of the operation. This is the floor plan. Essentially, customers will enter through the waiting area. They'll check in, provide their badge or their credential. They'll enter then into the facility. If it's a medical patient who requires a consult, they will enter the consult area where they'll meet with a pharmacist. Otherwise, they can make their way to the counter where they will interact with one of our staffers, and then they'll make their way out through the egress. So this sort of single flow process in one direction. When products are received, they're received into the receiving door and then quickly stored in a vault. Product is never stored outside of the vault, not even during daily operations. Everything is strictly controlled. And you see the rest of the facility here: employee entrance, employee break room, offices, etc. Signage: there will be no large signs with cannabis leaves on them. There will be no, it actually looks like a spa. The building will look very much like it does today, with the exception of a small sign, no bigger than 16 by 18 inches, containing our legal name. This is actually per the regulations. So will be a Zen leaf. The sign will look like the one that's there in the picture. Our working hours will be Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is the location that we're interested in. Like I said, it'll look a lot like it does today. We'll maintain it, landscaping, painted. It's a beautiful building. It's our intention to keep it looking exactly the way it is today. We did engage Kermit Hua, who is available on the call. He is a certified traffic engineer. We commissioned him to do a traffic study on the site. And we do have the full report closed with the application and available for review. And I will pick it up. Parking, we will allocate 6 parking spaces closest to the neighboring building for the Premier Urgent Care, just to allow them additional space as needed. That was a request from them, and we're happy to meet that request. In closing, I'll just talk about security. The facility will be secure, limited access in and out of the facility with key access fobs. We will have burglar alarms on site, high security locking hardware on the doors and key access, a state-of-the-art video surveillance system, both indoors and outdoors, which I can tell you has come in handy a lot of times across our facilities. Local police Even the federal police have asked us for our surveillance and helping them with crimes and sort of piecing together events that happened around our building. Nothing related to anything we did, but just asked to use our surveillance that's happened over the years. And again, chain of custody on all of our products. Customer and employee safety is key, and we take it very seriously. These are just plans, and that's it. So, you see me? Okay. So in closing, again, 2903 Berlin Turnpike for a hybrid retail dispensary, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Why don't we go to staff before we go to questions? Renata, we have Mike here.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I'm going to report.
Okay.
So we reviewed this application. I suppose I will start by reminding you that we recently held number of hearings to amend our zoning regulations to actually allow hybrid and retail use to our Berlin Turnpike, as well as PD zoning district. And actually those hearings were as recent as to October of 21 and January of this year is when we adopted. And if commission remembers, we kept a couple of hearings. We intentionally kept hearings open over a couple of nights and had no opposition from public, none whatsoever, as far as I can remember. I don't remember anybody speaking in opposition to this. This particular location is an abandoned, not an abandoned, but it's a vacant property that has been vacant for quite some time. The proposed use is an adaptive reuse of an existing vacant building. I recently remembered of a study that I read a couple of years ago, and it is not a very recent study. I want to say it's at least like 15 years old, that had found that a vacant building results in a significant impact to the residential properties that abut it. And I just Googled it this afternoon really quickly, and it's like maybe 15, 20 years old study that indicates that at the time that that study was done, so some times ago, it found that within a circle of 150 feet of a vacant building, the residential property values dropped by $7,600 annually, just on an account of this building being vacant. So repopulating this building is, in my opinion, going to be a good thing. I will also say that we had produced a number of comments in your packet, and we have provided these comments to the applicant. They're related mainly to any kind of changes of a floor. For example, if they were to expand their sales area, we will need to know that because that might have some consequences. We also will keep them accountable for their state license because that's also related to their state permits. But more importantly, this use has a potential to create some sort of novelty traffic. That being said, there is another same kind of hybrid retail use that was recently approved just down the street on Berlin Turnpike. Fine Federal is the same kind of use, and that was approved also in 2021 for hybrid. So they're probably likely to take away some of that novelty kind of traffic as well. So that gives me a little bit of comfort. With all that being said, we have met today with the police department and the applicants and discussed the opening plan, which, as you know, I also shared with the commission. They're like traffic sort of opening plan with you. So they will be closely working with our PD. They are in close contact with us, and the police department had said that they're in agreement with the traffic plan, and they will be working with the applicant on any kind of pre-planning event, pre-opening planning event on ensuring that there are police presence when they open and there is enough traffic sort of traffic measures at the time this facility opens, just in case there is any kind of opening day novelty traffic that's generated at the time. So with all that being said, they meet the regulations, and we recommend approval. Oh, except with that being said, I don't recommend approval. I will recommend approval at the next meeting, but at this meeting, as I had said to the chairman over the phone, we had some staff turnover, and in the staff transition thing, we did not send abutter notices in time. So we did not mail out abutter letters. So therefore, this hearing has to be continued until May 25th.
Okay, thank you, Renata, for that report. I appreciate it. Is there any questions from the commissioners before we go to the public? For either the applicant or question for Renata? Commissioner Drodes.
Yeah, just a quick question. I noticed, I like the idea of, the overview of the building, like the idea of the vault being far away from the front door and everything secured, even during open business hours. My question involves the access to the wall, that outside wall of the vault. Being that we're talking something of significant value being in that vault, it's already happened a couple of times in Newington, dealing with some different retail establishments with high value items locked in vaults, where they were able to drive a truck through a concrete block wall, empty that, steal that stuff, and then take off. So what kind of access is there, or what kind of protection is there to that outside wall of a vault when we're not during normal business hours, the 9 to 7 business hours?
Yeah, so Mark Kaczynski here, security director. Yeah, I mean, we basically, the regulations in Connecticut follow the federal regulations, and it's pretty strict. We have, it's going to be a concrete rebarred vault. The door is a very heavy duty, much like a bank wall. And the security system, of course, there is, there's video surveillance, of course, we have burglar alarms. And as far as people trying to break in the wall, it'd be very difficult, first of all, to get into the wall. But even if they start tampering with it, we have motion sensors, we have seismic sensors. Like, for instance, our vault in Portland was so sensitive that sometimes too sensitive, we were right near the Portland Bridge, so traffic would set off our seismic. So, it's a pretty sensitive sensor that is there. So as soon as someone sets that off, the burglar alarm gets triggered, and obviously we would do response, of course, call the police, and we would meet them there as well. So yes, it'd be pretty difficult you'd have to spend a lot of time and dismantle the whole burglar system, and the way this with state regulations too. There's a backup system, there's cellular contact, as well as hardline IP. So it's pretty sophisticated, and again, that's all by state regulations, which of course we
right
follow to the letter. Yeah, and it's 8 inches of concrete. It's half-inch rebar.
Yep.
Vertically and horizontally, 6 inches on center, with 8 inches of concrete ceiling, walls, and floors.
All right, so that's a solid pour. You're not talking about concrete blocks.
Correct.
Correct.
Southport.
Right. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, I appreciate that, because obviously my question involved someone literally driving a truck and doing a smash and grab through the wall versus the front door alarm system stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I
Right.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Haggerty?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for the applicant regarding the traffic study. In the third paragraph of your summary, you stated the increase in site trips will not significantly impact the traffic movements on adjacent roadways. Kind of looking at table 4 in that study, comparing what the previous restaurant was doing versus the projected of the dispensary. In the morning, since the restaurant was not open, there was 0 trips, but in the morning of the dispensary, there's 50 trips. In the afternoon, it jumps from 43 to 91 trips. That's a 100% increase. And then Saturday midday it goes from 54 to 138, which is more than doubling. So I'm just curious how you're, doubling traffic, but yet it's not significantly impact. What would the traffic have to be in order for you to label it something not significant? Like triple, quadruple?
So that's a great question, and that's why we engage a traffic engineer who I believe is on this Zoom. If we can allow Kermit to speak. Yes, he's got his hand up.
Yeah, I know. I just promoted him to a panelist, so
Okay, thank
sorry
you.
about that. There we go.
All right.
So he can unmute himself and he should be good to go.
Yes. Hold on one moment. Yes. Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission staff. For the record, Kermit Hua, KWH Enterprise LLC, Maryland, Connecticut. I prepared a traffic study. Just answer the question. I think the Commission member was absolutely correct. We will generate more traffic than the previous restaurant. As you know, the previous restaurant, my assumption was, sort of a sit-down restaurant. People visit, probably for duration an hour or so, plus minus. We will generate more trips during the weekday afternoon peak hour and the Saturday peak hour. But again, that's one of the uses. As you know, this site has been, has in the past 2 decades has some history. First you have the national chain donut shop, which didn't last very long, which I assume probably may be more traffic intensive than we are proposing here. So the overall, I see your point as far as the trip comparison with the restaurant. But my point is really compare the peak hour trips with the overall traffic volumes on the adjacent roadways. What I did, I compared the trips we generate to Berlin Turnpike trips, which is a major thoroughfare in the area. In terms of the increase in trips compared to the existing traffic on Berlin Turnpike, we're looking at about 2 to 3%. So it's not a large percent. I acknowledge the adjacent signalized intersection is very busy. I think for businesses, including restaurants like Bertucci, they have been there for decades. That is the reason we want to locate there, because of the traffic. And I think the advantage of this site is the way it is configured. If you are familiar with the site from Berlin Turnpike, you can only make a right turn into the site. If you're going, I would say, southbound on Berlin Turnpike, make a right turn into the site. The only way you can exit is on the Main Street driveway opposite, I think, the assisted living facility across street on Main Street. So I think the layout of the site has already been configured in such a way that minimized impact. Certainly we don't create an impact directly to Berlin Turnpike because we cannot exit to Berlin Turnpike. The only way is you can peel off the southbound traffic, get into the site. So incrementally, again, go to my previous point is the net increase in percentage-wise to Berlin Turnpike traffic. It's not a big jump. And if we don't go in there, some other retail uses I think most likely will occupy the space. So it's not that much different. I acknowledge it is higher than the previous restaurant, immediate previous restaurant, but just to look at the big picture, I don't see a big jump in terms of traffic deterioration as a result of this development. Thank you, Commissioner.
I appreciate that. And certainly, I appreciate our town planners, point that, leaving that building vacant, decreases the property areas or values of the adjacent properties. I think it's a significant impact. Mostly, I think you had made a point that the traffic on the signalized intersection on the turnpike doesn't really get worse. Well, there's really nowhere to go for it to get worse. On the weekday afternoon, everything is already level of service F. And on the Saturdays, everything goes from an E to an F. And on the on Main Street, everything gets worse. Goes to a C to a D, E to an F, D to an F. So, again, I don't want to let a building sit there. We allowed this in our town regulations. I just think it's going to make a significant impact. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, if there's no objection, I'm going to go to the public participation. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak in favor or in opposition to this? Anybody from the public?
Lori, you can go ahead and, oh, she was gone. Elaine, you can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Elaine. Can you unmute yourself?
I don't know if this is the time I should speak. I am opposed to this application. So would I go ahead and speak at this time?
Yes, you can. Go right ahead.
Okay. My name, good evening, commissioners. Thank you for your service to the community. My name is Elaine Irwin Matulis, and I own the property at 2116 Main Street in Newington, which directly abuts this property. And I guess you are aware that there was a failed notice, and I was not notified, nor were my neighbors notified of this action pending. And what I'm concerned about is in one provision of the application, which I believe was number 13B, it says the cannabis was not to be within 100 feet of residential property. Their maps do not seem to be accurate to me at all. I directly abut that property. And, I'm really concerned and really opposed to this use of a special permit for this usage. This property was involved in litigation regarding another special permit application. And I just can't believe we're kind of going down this road again. So number one is I feel like this property that they're considering use of for Verano is within the 100 feet barrier that is provided by the actual notification in the application. Another item is that there is a public building that is within 100 feet. That's the Department of Transportation building, which is directly across, well, it's diagonally across the street from here. And I believe that there's a prohibition with public buildings to have a, cannabis dispensary within that area. Regarding the traffic report, I feel like this understates peak traffic usage. And I think the report fails to look at traffic reports for similar type properties. We don't know where the employees are going to park. And I will tell you, when Bonefish Grill was there, it was a nightmare because they would park all the way down the street up to my property where you couldn't get in and out. And the access way for this property is only through the Berlin Turnpike, and the exit pattern which services Firestone, also the medical facility and this facility are all on Main Street. So that means the traffic on Main Street is gonna increase exponentially, and it will be, to the detriment of anybody who lives around that area. I'm also worried about delivery, where the vault is in the back, so it'll be more noise, security issues to the neighbors, lighting that may come onto the surrounding properties. And this dispensary is open 7 days a week. And I don't know what kind of noise they will have for deliveries and people just constantly going in and out. As you know, there is already a dispensary in Newington. And I'm just concerned that why does Newington need 2 dispensaries in town? And what kind of reputation would follow that? I guess when you look at the special permit requirements, they are specific to each individual locations. And this specific location is going to be negatively impacted by the proximity to residential property. Across the street, you also have a senior housing facility. Across the street from me is residential. We're residential where we are. I mean, I just don't think it's a good location at all for this type of usage at all. And in the permit itself, it listed incorrectly as that I was at, I believe, 2,990 Berlin Turnpike. So I don't know how they came up with that information. So I would respectfully request that the commissioners deny this application. I think it's too close to residential property, and given this location and close proximity to the public building, I think the traffic impact will be an absolute nightmare to people that live in that area. And I would like to have this denied. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. As we stated earlier, we're going to leave this public hearing open until all the proper notifications have come.
Next
Anybody?
is, there's a
Stephen?
couple more.
Yeah,
Yes.
go.
Go ahead, Stephen. You can unmute yourself. Stephen Dubikowski, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. Do you want me to try and go to the next one, Mr. Chairman?
Stephen, you can unmute. Go to the next one, I guess. Lori?
Laura, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, are you there?
Yes.
We are here.
Okay, my name is Lori Dubowski. I live at 2107 Main Street in Newington, and I'm opposed to this application. I didn't really know much about it until today because we weren't notified that anything was going into that building. I did speak to a retired traffic commissioner with DOT, and he did look at the plans for traffic and the flow of traffic for me, and his concerns I could read to you and send it to you in writing. It says location LOS, DEF are operating at undesirable levels of service. E is for jams, F is for really bad measure of delay. The added traffic makes an already bad situation worse. They don't show turning volumes at the exit driveway, impossible to determine the impact at that intersection. Cars lined up waiting at the exit driveway can interfere with traffic circulation, causing congestion and extreme safety issues. This plan needs to be reviewed by a traffic engineer hired by the town of Newington. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Go right ahead.
Okay. We had issues, ongoing issues with this property. When the donut shop was there, they were parking on our lawns. When the restaurant was there, they were parking on Main Street and on Lewis Street, and people were running across in the dark at all times of the day. The traffic is already lined up past our houses on weekends and on busy nights. It's difficult for the fire engines to get through Main Street sometimes because of this, because I witness it daily. There's accidents constantly at the corner of Lewis Street and at the corner of the Berlin Turnpike. So I don't understand how you increase in traffic by, I don't know, hundreds of cars an hour is going to help the situation. Also, you're trying to locate this in a residential neighborhood, and that doesn't seem like a very good idea. I will put my concerns and the issues I had consulted with the traffic surveyor, and I will send it to you in writing. And I'm just opposing this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Either for or against this application?
I see no one else with their hand raised right now, Mr. Chairman, I believe.
Okay, very
Gail
good.
has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, I really wasn't paying not that I wasn't paying much attention to it, but just with the applicant's presentation tonight regarding that they do anticipate more traffic than than there had even been with the restaurant. Just an observation. People, I shop at Price Chopper, and that intersection is basically a death trap. I mean, they have block the box now, which people tend to disregard quite a bit. You cannot see people turning from the turnpike onto Main Street. I was just wondering if there was any kind of way that intersection, I mean, if this application does go through, if there can be some improvement to that intersection, because I know 4 people personally that have gotten into small fender benders there. And if there's going to be that much more traffic, I mean, it's just a very bad intersection. The traffic coming off of Lewis Street, trying to make a left or right, quite frankly, onto Main Street. So if you can just consider that in the design. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have their hands up?
I believe the applicant does.
Okay, yeah, the applicant is next. You have an opportunity to answer any of those questions or rebut them. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the comments from the residents around in and around the property. I certainly wouldn't want to have to deal with the circumstances that they're describing, but I want to remind you that so the traffic patterns that we're talking about, the first few weeks of the novelty of a business that's starting. As the business matures, as it's there longer, the novelty wears off, and we're going to see less traffic. It'll be akin to a pharmacy. This isn't, it's unfortunate that it's cannabis, and cannabis in the U.S. now has a stigma of a wild drug, but in the reality, it's a very, very strict, informal process and program. It's administered by pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, Department of Consumer Protection's Drug Control audits and regulates us. We're an A+ student with respect to being a business in town, and we will be sensitive to traffic and the concerns of the neighbors. Of course, we will. There's going to be a business that's going to locate within that building, and I'm happy to. I won't hide that it's an expensive building. So you're going to need a business to move in there that's going to have to be able to support the rent and utilities and then, all the expense that comes along with occupying that particular location. And I think that we would be your best bet in that we are formal and we are strictly regulated. And I think that plays to the advantage of all the parties involved. there were some other points. Delivery and noise. So our delivery, because we're delivering a controlled substance, it's a Schedule 2 in Connecticut. So it's the same regulation as OxyContin, really, which is, highly regulated. The delivery vans are nondescript. They're typical, just a white delivery van, like an Envy, Nissan Envy or a van like that. There's no noise. They're just a regular vehicle. As far as people crossing the street at night and in the dark, we won't tolerate that. We're going to be there. We're going to have set hours. There will be licensed pharmacists on site, and pharmacists are licensed by the Department of Consumer Protection. So the business itself is licensed by Consumer Protection, and then the pharmacist there independently has their own license at stake. So you have a formal licensed professional on site that to hear any concerns or comments or concerns. In addition, all the technicians are licensed. It's a very formal group of individuals who would be operating in the location. And because there are two in town, I think you're going to see less traffic than you would see in a town that only has one. There's also one located in Hartford, one in South Windsor, one in Meriden. And I think that Central Connecticut is fairly well represented. I don't imagine we're going to have the lines that you see in Massachusetts on day one. I don't think Connecticut is going to have those types of lines because Massachusetts has been adult use for a couple of years now. New York is adult use now. New Jersey is adult use, and Connecticut is joining the party last. So I think those are all things that sort of play to. I don't know that we're going to see the big traffic lines that we're concerned about. And in closing, I'm happy to provide my own contact information, my phone number. If there are issues, I am available. My name is Reno Ferris. I'm here in Rocky Hill, 280 Dividend Road, Rocky Hill, Connecticut. I'm here every single day. And I'm happy to be the first point of contact for you in the event that something's happening that you're not happy with.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Renata, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I will just address, I think, one thing that was brought up, and it was with regards to the separation distances.
At 100 foot, that's for a
yeah.
production facility, right?
Yes. So I don't know, I'm going to share my screen real quick, but I believe what the resident was referring to were sections A and B under the separation requirements, and each one of these sections is pertaining to the production facilities and cultivators and micro cultivators. So it's not, these two sections do not apply to this particular use. So I wanted to address that. And then lastly, one thing that perhaps is of some value to consider also is, and I don't know if applicant has an answer to that, but it would be helpful to understand just the level of investment that they will be putting into this building. This kind of use has to, just by the nature of the use, has to equip their facilities with certain type of air conditioning and climate control and security systems and certain type of things. So just the level of investment into the building improvements itself creates the conditions when, compared to pretty much any other use that could be here, such as another restaurant or a drive-through restaurant or a fast food place or some other place that's likely to be wanting to come to this location at Berlin Turnpike. We are looking at a use that is more likely to invest into the building much more than I would imagine some other retail or restaurant use would. So I don't know if the applicant has any of those numbers prepared, but it would be informative to know just if they had some idea about what is the investment into the building that they were looking into protect.
Okay, we can, maybe they'll provide us with some answers on that at our next meeting. As everybody knows, we're going to continue this public hearing. If there's no objection and there's no commissioners that have any other questions, if we could entertain a motion to leave petition 23-22 open.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one more question before we do that.
Sure. Certainly. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Sorry.
Lennar.
I don't know if my raised hand function is working or not, but
Yeah, we see it.
Sorry, thank you. The one question I had for the applicant was if by chance some of the initial parking demand was higher than anticipated because of that novelty, most likely in the early stages of doing business, what are their arrangements for the employee parking or overflow parking? Just for reference, as one of the residents had stated earlier, that I think there was a large issue with some of the, I don't know if it was employees or if it was the customers of the previous restaurant that were there when they were walking up, I believe it's Lewis Street, and trying to cross that pretty good sized intersection because they were parking in the open parking lot at Price Chopper. So I just wanted to know what was the thought process or what they have arranged, let's say, to try to avoid that. Thank you.
Well,
May I respond, Commissioner?
yes, go right ahead.
We do. We have allocated, there is a park and ride location across the turnpike on Griswoldville Avenue that we will utilize. We would utilize it in the initial weeks, just in abundance of caution. We use it for employees and potentially any overflow parking. And then we would use, we're open, and we've done this in other markets where there's that need. We want to work with the site. We want the customers to come and have places to park. It doesn't help us if the customers don't have any place to park. So we will move the employees and transport them via park and ride to keep the site open with spaces. Thank you.
You're muted, Dominic.
Thank you very much for answering that question for the commissioner. I would imagine that the turnover is fairly fast too, that I don't think customers are in there for a very long time. Am I correct?
That's absolutely correct. Up to 70% of our pre-orders. So the customer pre-orders online comes in, they're in there typically less than 3 minutes. We get them in and out very quickly.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so if there's no objection, we'll leave this public hearing open. I'll entertain a motion to leave petition 23-22 open until we get the letters out. Do I have a motion for that?
I make a motion to keep petition 23-22 open.
Thank you, Commissioner Haggerty. A motion from Commissioner Haggerty. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Seconded by Commissioner Havens. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? The motion carries unanimously to keep petition 23-22 open. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes of TPZ minutes 4/13/22 and TPZ minutes 4/27/22. Do we have anybody that needs to make any corrections to those minutes? Commissioner Drodes.
Yeah, 2 quick points. One, I was shown in attendance on the meeting for April 13th. I was not there.
Okay.
Second thing is, I don't know if there's any way, let me turn off video. I don't know if there's any way to fix the spelling of my name. It's kind of what it shows on my screen right now. If we can pass that along.
You want to talk to Renata on that afterwards tomorrow?
Fair enough. Easy enough.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough.
All right, Noreen, so approval on those minutes based on the corrections from Commissioner Drodes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have nothing under new business, and we have under old business. I think we're all set. And we're at petitions for public hearing scheduling. I don't know if Renata wants to go over anything there.
Yeah, just really quick, we have one petition that is scheduled for the 25th for conversion of an older home into a multiple dwelling home at 44 Cedar Street. It's an old house that was supposedly for a long time used as a multifamily home. The applicant is trying to sell it. They had asked us for certificate of compliance. We can't prove in our regulations that it was ever approved for multifamily use, so we cannot sign that. So they need to get that permitted through you. So that's why that's before the commission.
Okay. Very good. Any questions from the commissioners? All right.
Renata, one question. Sorry to interrupt. We also got that one in for the sign yesterday as well.
Oh, so that one is not even put up on the future agenda yet?
Yeah. That's.
So the kitty corner from 4 Hartford Road, the gas station across the street from Yanni's and across the street from that Balkan store grill and King Donut.
Yeah.
King Donut. So whichever gas station that is, it's Shell or one of those. What gas station?
It's a Shell now, and they're converting brands.
Shell. Okay. So they will be coming for a sign.
For the digital sign pricing.
Digital sign as well.
Okay. Very good. Town planners report.
So future agenda is right now, the 25th looks pretty bad. We have put everything off. So we have cannabis, we have opt-out, we have applications for re-subdivision and creation of interior lot on Cedar Street, on Cedarwood Lane. We have these two applications that we just scheduled, and I have had a request for a pre-application meeting in front of the commission. So I think it's going to be a good test to use our 10:30 termination time. So we will see how that plays out. But we will have like a long agenda next meeting.
Renata, what's the pre-application for?
They haven't submitted the papers in yet, so I'm reluctant to say it. It is something I am personally very excited about to bring you.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna give you this teaser, but I can't really say until I actually have a paper in front of me. I'm not comfortable saying.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay. No, that's it. Really, the next meeting looks like it's gonna be a bit busy. So under the town planner report, I will also say that your decision, the planning commission's decision on Culver Street special permit and site plan got appealed, and we are defending it. I forwarded the appeal for right now, just to chair. I haven't really shared because there is not much in those documents. You're welcome to individually, like, come if you want to our office and review the filing if you wish. But we are defending it, so just don't please discuss any of this amongst yourself or with anybody, and I will keep you posted as things develop. And yes, that's it.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the town planner from commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Haggerty, go right ahead.
Renata, do you know, best guess, how many towns are going to opt into these state accessory apartment regulations versus how many are going to opt out? 50-50,
So-
impossible to tell.
So nobody is opting in. So people will either not do anything, which means they will let their regulation lapse and therefore be subject to the state regs.
Okay.
Or they will change their regulations so that they are in conformance with the state regulations. But for the most part, most communities that I am aware of, and I have on my desk about like 7 or 8, most communities are changing their regulations, kind of doing the same thing that we're doing. People are opting out, but in the opt-out process, they're also changing their regulations and making them better. So most communities are actually making their regulations work better so that they are actually fixing a problem. In our case, our regulations have a number of things that really prevented people from having accessory apartments. And some of those provisions that prevented people from applying for accessory apartments had to do with these like weird formulas. When we set like certain limitations, it has to be so many square feet, but not more than so many square feet. So it just mathematics that didn't work out in many cases. So many towns had some kind of weird provisions like that just because of how their regs were, it didn't work. So pretty much a lot of people are making changes.
Okay.
There are a lot of people that are allowing as of right, a lot of rural communities are allowing just what the state does, just allow it as of right and let it happen. But those communities that tend to be communities with larger lots. Yeah. They have a minimum lot sizes that tend to be larger than what we have here.
Got it. Thank you. That it's really answered my question. I think, reading through your proposed regulations, I liked a lot of them. I think just a little hesitant on allowing detached apartments, even via special permit and even on an acre lot. But anyway, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a discussion.
Yeah.
You do not have to agree with me on that. This is a big deal. This is a big deal in a big part of the town, and I may have my opinions, but this is a planning process. Like this is where we actually should have these kind of conversations.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Haggerty. Thank you, Renata. It comes down to, how much protection we want for these single family homes we allow them in a few zones. I'm concerned too, just like Commissioner Haggerty, allowing it in every single family home. I might have some concerns with that, but that's something that we definitely will talk about. Commissioner Gill, you have a question?
Yes, as far as the agenda for next week, how is that put together? A thought is something like the opting out. Can we put that at the end of the agenda?
opt-out process is our proposal. We can keep that off the agenda for the 25th. Or we can keep it.
Well, it's
the
it's
last
still an
item
open
on the
meeting. It's still an open public hearing on it.
It is.
Yep, so it would still be on the agenda. We have plenty of time on it, so we don't necessarily have to finalize the opt-out next meeting, correct, Renata?
We don't, but I
Okay.
would prefer the opt-out conversation
Yep.
finished
We
sooner.
The opt-out conversation, we don't have. to
We
finish
don't
the-
have to iron. Yes, we don't have to iron the text amendment, but because I have to go to council with the opt-out, I would like that finished
Okay.
like sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the
Yes,
commission?
the school expansion of parking, is that going to be on?
That's gonna be on the next agenda too, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any
Yeah,
other
I'm
questions?
telling you, 10:30 will come into play next week,
It will
next
come
month, I'm
quick.
sure.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go to public participation.
Have the CROG letters. I don't.
Yeah, there's CROG letters. Does anybody have any questions on the CROG letters? Hearing no questions, we have public participation. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak?
There's a few people there, but nobody has their hand raised.
We'll give it a minute.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I will just in this public participation, remind everybody that I sent an email that I received before last meeting from Mr. Matteo Rossi. That correspondence was shared with the commission via email.
Mhm. Thank you.
Still no one with their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Hearing nobody from the public, we'll move on to remarks by commissioners. Commissioners have any remarks? Hearing none, go to the closing remarks. I don't have anything. Rest up for next meeting, guys. Sounds like we're gonna have a doozy. If there's no objection, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded.
Haggerty.
Second.
Seconded by Haggerty. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night.
Night all.